Hey, what's going on? So, we do a video. I'm working on a book, so this is just, I got like 20 chapters, and this is one of my chapters, um, parts of the chapter, anyways. And it's about you don't want to live in these places, and you'd be surprised. A lot of people have a choice where they want to live, where they want to move to. People make these mistakes every single day. They move, they get a job, they go somewhere, they buy it on a weekend. They don't know until Monday, or they buy it in the summer, and then all of a sudden the school bells are ringing in their backyard. Okay, or there's a stadium and there's football games in the back, and or the fire department or the volcano. And so this is about dust and how dust can make you sick. And first of all, just so you know about dust, and I'm not going to do my whole chapter, but I'll cover a bunch of some crazy stuff too. Dust, how does it get in your house? And that's what we're going to talk about. But once it's in your house, you remember dust makes us sick, and depending on where the dust is, the lower to the ground. Let's say you're on the floor, and somebody walks by, you kick up a plume. If it's carpeted and it's moist carpet, it's a lot more dust because now you got fecal pellets from insects like dust mites and things like that. They're eating the cat dander if you got pets in the house, and so the dust in your house is bad. You got to clean it. It makes you sick. And by the way, when you get a lot of dust, sometimes you sneeze when the furnace kicks on, okay, or whatever, okay. I got a lot of chapters. We're just going to talk about how it gets into the house. Bottom line is you want to clean the dust in your house. You want to minimize the dust. And a couple things are don't give it food, uh, like crumbs and things like that. Don't give it moisture, okay, and don't give it a medium. So obviously, I'm an anti-carpet guy. So the dust in the house kicks up. The little babies and pets get it the worst because their breathing zone is between 0 and 1 foot. They're on the ground, okay, and then toddlers are like 1 foot to 2 feet, and then we're at about 4 or 5 feet. But unless we sit on a couch, we kick up a plume on our couches too. So you want couch covers, you want pillow covers, and all that. Okay. So, anyways, let's talk about where not to live. So there's a dust could come in all different. It could come from space. It could come from the ground, from manufacture. So a couple of them. We'll make a few comments here. You don't want to first of all be near. And you guys know me. I'm a nuclear guy, so I might as well start off with the nuclear. Don't be downwind of a nuclear plant. Okay. You saw what happened to 3 Mile Island. You saw what happened to Chernobyl. You saw what happened to Fukushima. Okay. And we have 80 of these places. At least I'm going to say 70 to 80 that are running, and they're all bad. A lot of them leak. We have more leaks and releases than any other nuclear power plants in the world, and we have 80 of them. And there's about 400 or so throughout the world. We're like the worst, and they're all GE reactors. They're all done. They're all 30, 40 years old. They just don't live near these things, okay? And some are held together by super glue, not like super glue, but nuclear super glue. And they don't tell you about the releases. I mean, we have train wrecks they don't tell you about. They're going to start fires. You heard about that one, right? Oh, don't live near train tracks, okay? And an example of a train track would be the whole city of Libby, Montana, Libby. What happened there was W.C. Grace was mining vermiculite. And guess what? They hit a vein of tremolite. That's asbestos, the smallest asbestos particle right in your lungs. You can cause cancer. And guess what? That whole city, everybody is pretty much sick in that city. All the miners are dead. And the train that left that city, all the little towns downstream, high cancer rates. Don't live next to the tracks. Tracks have drift. You ever watch a train go by and look at it? There's a smoke following it. Think about during the Cold War or during the Manhattan Project when they were bringing radioactive uranium 235, 238. I'm sorry, and they were moving across the country. That stuff was going in towns. Don't live next to railroad tracks. Okay. Don't live next to any plants, any chemical plant. Look what happened to people in Rochester. They were burning uh, Agent Orange. There's down by Niagara, that whole city. Everybody's sick over there. Okay, so don't stay away from industrial. Stay away from chemicals. Okay, stay away from from nuclear power plants. Also, more. We got a lot more. You don't want to be near freeways. Okay, you don't want to be near main roads because you're breathing carbon dioxide. Okay, carbon monoxide. Okay, so your oxygen is getting displaced. Okay, not to mention all the particulate that comes from cars, from the rubber. So you want to be near that. Not only that, there's another problem. And we're going to call this dust with noise. Okay, and dust with noise, noise is something that disrupts your sleep. Now, we have this thing called a pineal gland, and this thing produces melatonin, and it only produces melatonin when it's pure black. It's got to be black. You can't have those little lights around those little lights and phantom voltage, they call it, little red lights and blue lights and all the stuff we plug in and stereos, and they all got to be down. You can't have windows on a street where your neighbors are coming up at night and making turns. You see the lights go across your room. Your body senses that. It shuts down the melatonin. And what does melatonin do? That's what kills the free radicals. That goes through our whole body. And at night while we sleep, it kills free radicals that we generate throughout the day. And guess what? We don't kill the free radicals. We're getting sick. Our immune system's going down. And we're going to catch 400 different problems, okay? Cancer's the end of the line. And a headache is over here, and there's 500 things in between, okay? And if your immune system's down, somebody sneezes, you're going to have a virus, okay? So sleeping is important. So you don't want to have a house that's going to be disrupted by noise. And what's noise? A fire station? Oh, yeah. A fire station, every night there's a fire. You're not going to... Why do you think all the people in the cities are crazy? The fire... There's the ambulances and the fire trucks and the police cars. Man, you got to be able to sleep at night for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. Everybody has a different, I'm not going to get into all that, but everyone sleeps different. Sometimes you need 6.5. You get lucky. Some people need 7. But it has to be a productive sleep, and it can't be with noise. So we have areas also that have pollution with noise. Okay, so I call that, noise pollution, dust producing noise pollution. So the dust is, because this chapter is about how somebody says, should I dig a 10-foot hole? No, we'll get into that because we get dust from the earth too. So now there's a lot more coming here. Our agricultural farming. You ever fly an airplane? You look out the window, man, it's nothing but farms. Think of all those people downstream. They got airplanes spraying. They're digging dirt. They're spraying chemicals. They're spraying pesticides. And you're living downstream. It's getting in your house, and you're breathing this stuff. You don't want to be near nobody's farm, okay? Period. And you're gonna have a lot more dust in your house. You're gonna have a lot more chemicals in your house, okay? And also, there's some crazy farm stuff too. You got animal farms like pig, like the people that got to deal with the odor, okay? The pig farmers, man. You can get in all those class action lawsuits. You might as well just move because they're going to keep doing that. And guess what else they're doing? I took a ride from California. I was down to Arizona, coming up right along the border. And you know what those farmers do there? The air slides inject all the urine and feces into the sky, 300 feet, and it dissipates. And we're driving all night long, and every 50 miles, man, we almost puked. I wish I would have had my P100 respirator. And then in the morning, when we got to where we were in Phoenix, our car was sticky. It had it was sticky. It was like you put your finger down, it would be sticking. All those people on the border breathing that stuff. It's getting in their gardens. Stay away from agriculture. Stay away from farming. Okay. Now, there's all kind of stuff you get from that. Plus, you don't know what kind of chemicals they're using. I mean, you'll be sitting there scratching and seeing a doctor, and it's because you're living next to a farm, and every year they spray something, and you pick it up. So stay away from that stuff. Okay. So agriculture is an issue. Okay, livestock. We just talked about the livestock. Okay, and we're talking all like. Another thing is when you're driving through the country, especially January, February, March, April, May, and June. Man, you better close your window. I know it's nice to get fresh air, country air. Here we go, dry, T-tops down, sunroom down. Man, these farmers are spraying stuff everywhere. And they're picking up the dirt, and a lot of those particles you don't even see. Okay, you got dirt particles of different sizes. You go point like 0.2 microns, 3 microns, like 5 microns to 10 microns are mold spores. Pretty big stuff. They get stuck in your nose. Then you get down to the 1 microns, and they kind of get down up into here, right? Then you get down to the asbestos. We talked about vermiculite. Remember we talked about the people of Montana that had vermiculite being mined in that town. That stuff is like so small, it gets way into your lungs. And that sticks in there. And that's asbestos. A lot of this is glass too. Glass is a problem too. So another place you don't want to live, America has over 100 dried lakes. You don't want to be near a dried lake. And these, we're talking a distance. That's the dried lakes will pick up millions and millions of pounds of dust. And you're wondering why your air conditioners are like, you want to make some money, go to Vegas. You got Lake Mead that's drying up because we got drying lakes too. You got the desert, so you got all the sand, and they're making tons of money, the HVAC guys. And everybody's sick because all that dust that's in there. I would never live in an area that has near a dried lake or an area near a desert, especially downstream from a desert. All that dust gets in your house. And if you don't have proper filtration, you don't have, and you know, hygiene, you don't clean your house. Like, for example, if you live, let's say you had to live near a desert and when I say downstream, I mean downwind. I just say downstream. And I wouldn't have any carpets, and I would probably not have cloth furniture. I'd probably buy stock in Swiffers, and I'd have floors, monolithic floors that I could clean, I could control. I wouldn't have any window treatments, okay? Yeah, Salt Lake. Oh yeah, each lake has its issue. Okay, so some have salt, some have magnesium. These are dried lakes we're talking about. Okay, and what about nuclear test sites? What about the 280 nuclear bombs they blew up over Nevada? You don't think those isotopes are still in the dirt and the sand and get kicked up, and just a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. All these little bits add up to a big bit. Okay, and so the dry lake effect somebody just mentioned. Yes, we have 100 of those. You don't want to be near a dry lake. Okay, now we also have dust that comes from the earth. Volcanoes. Okay. So there was a guy living on a volcano and says, I'll be fine. I'm not leaving. He died. So did 65 other people. We had a couple of volcano eruptions here. And so you don't want to be near. And the other problem with volcanoes, and even like, you're going to get volcanic ash. If you're there when it happens, you're going to get a sandblasted car, right? And your house is going to be trashed. But that dust, you're going to have that dust for a decade. So don't be near one of them places. Stay away from dust that comes from the earth. Okay, volcanoes. Okay, and of course they cause lung disorders and cirrhosis. I don't know if I said that right. And there's all kind of, like, certain dust will do different damage to you. So glass, like, that comes from sand, that does something different to you. Asbestos does something different to you. Sometimes you get volatile organic compounds. Okay, and so you want to stay away from places like that. Also, you have the odor issue, and like, for example, you don't want to buy a house behind Burger King. Okay, first of all, it's like, oh, that smells good at first, but man, it's not good. And whenever you smell something like barbecue, you're breathing particulate, volatile organic compounds. And this stuff is not good for you, okay? So living next to a Burger King, or you want to smell like a fish, buy a house next to Arthur Treacher's. Hey, you'd be going to parties like, hey, man, she smells like a fish because she lives next to Arthur Treacher's, okay? So no fast foods, no place that has odors, and then we don't have these issues like smelters anymore, but people that live near lead smelters. I'm a lead guy. I could find any house that's located with a lead smelter, and we're talking, these things have been shut down for years, decades. I can go in that attic, I could take a dust sample, and guess what? It's going to have lead in it. So, and I've done some crazy dust testing. It's forensic dust testing. I've done full particle identification. I think one of my craziest tests was I got hired to go to New York, and it was actually on 9/11. It was 5 years. It was an anniversary 5 years after the towers. No, 6 years after the towers came down. I can't remember what year that was. And I was right next to the towers, there was this condominium. These condominium complexes, I think like 13, 14 stories tall. That thing got whacked by parts of the buildings, the whole front of it, and the person buying it, it was a $10 million condo back then, and they said, "Hey, test my house. Tell me what kind of dust is in here." And I did all kind of testing, man. I did all every. It was like a dog and pony show, but I did do what's called full particle ID testing, and this is 5 years, 6 years after I tested the same insulation that was in the towers, and guess what? There was carbon in there too, which could have been, all right. And so the blueprint was the same blueprint, and I took samples out of their ductwork, I took samples out of their walls, and it was there 5 years later. And now you wonder why all the first responders aren't feeling so good. Okay, dust. That was a poisonous dust that got into the house, but that's just one of them. That was a big cloud. Okay, but we got these poison clouds coming all over the place. I mean, this stuff will go for the biggest poison cloud of all time, besides the ones that I was exposed to as a child during the Cold War when they were blowing up atomic weapons in the ground, above ground, and on the ground. Kennedy shut that down in 63. 230 or 40 of these things. And I had a lot of friends back then. My buddy, he was a sax player, 7th, 8th grade, died of leukemia. I know 4 people died of leukemia, okay? And leukemia wasn't like, that was environmental, man. Don't let them kid you. This is not hereditary stuff, okay? And I'm sure that was from those fallouts, because we all lived in the same area. We lived in Euclid, Ohio. So we got hit with that plume, okay? Now, what about the biggest plume of all time that hit us on, here we go, Fukushima, Marco, the anti-nuke guy. That plume came over America. For 10 days, it rained on us. And that was cesium, okay? 37, 34, and iodine 131. Short half-lives, but not short enough, because that got on all our food. It got on our tomato plants that summer, and we ate those things. Now think about it. You're eating a tomato plant with cesium on it, okay, which has a half-life. Some are 30 days, one of them 7 years, and one of them's like 9 days. And so the half-life, you're eating it, it gets in your body, it's radioactive, and then it does damage, and then it makes store in the bones, and then a half-life, it goes away, right? Because that's what happens, and it goes away. But what about the damage it did? And it may be 10 years, 20 years before you have a problem. Now everybody's got these throat problems on the West Coast because those were alpha particles. Okay, those are alpha particles which kind of get right into this area. So people got all these problems, a lot of cancers, a lot of throat issues, thorax issues from that Fukushima cloud. They're not gonna talk about that. They don't want you to know about that. And also the food. Don't be careful about buying food from California, especially if it comes over on a ship, because they raised our radiation levels in our food. Be careful about eating fish. You better check your barcodes where your fish are coming from, because so there's radioactive fish they're feeding us, okay? The radioactive rice. Man, it's crazy. It's insane. And so, okay, I didn't mean to get off on nuclear, but I did. And so livestock, we talked about, the breathing zones too. We talked about, what dust does, and also how small kids and pets, especially in homes, because the lower to the ground you are. So if you got a lot of dust in your house, you want to clean it up. You want to use high Fisher particle or HEPA vacuum cleaners. Sometimes aggressive cleaning is to start off. You put some masks on, open all the doors and windows, get your leaf blower, get a negative air machine, a couple HEPA vacs, and then you can clean out your whole house. So I would say, people have extra things, that would be not a bad idea to have a negative air machine, because you can clean out your house real quick, suck everything out, dust everything down, and then try to maintain the dust. Now here's the thing. We have a lot of clouds that come over, and this would be back to the sand clouds. Okay, like if you lived in Florida and North, South America, okay, what happens there is 3 times a year, the Sahara dust cloud comes over the ocean, This thing goes all the way. It actually wipes out hurricanes. Okay, it goes all the way to Florida and rains on these people. They can't see it because we're talking very small micron, like less like point 0.2, point 0.1s, point 0.3s, point 0.5s, less than 1 micron. And this stuff goes across the ocean and rains on these people. And they don't even know it. And these are older people live down there and they're getting sick. And they don't know it because there's particles. It's just a little bit. It's a little bit. But it happens 3 times a year. So if you could actually go to Earth Null School, okay, and learn how to maneuver these sites, you can find a lot of this stuff. And you go to Earth Null School and you can look at this stuff like, oh, the cloud's coming. Yeah, I'm not cutting the grass next couple days or this week. I'm going to keep my windows closed. I'm going to cover my backyard up. My tomato plants. I'm going to cover them up. And maybe when clouds coming, like for example in Cleveland or in Ohio, they burn that vinyl chloride in that train wreck. What a bunch of idiots! I mean, why would you light that up? Why would you turn that into dioxin? Why would you contaminate thousands and thousands and thousands of people's houses when you could have just had a little area that you could have just cleaned up, right? Kind of get you mad, right? And if people knew that happened, they could have like left their homes. They could have covered up their gardens, especially if they knew it was going to fall. They know where it's going to fall out. The weather they're so good at this. They know where the winds are. They know everything. They can tell you where that thing's, how high it's going to go, how much of it's going to go this way in the jet stream, how much it's going to go that way. I mean, we get dust from China's deserts. It gets up in the jet streams. Yeah, it rains that dust on us. It's not a lot, but it goes around the world. And think about this. If we didn't have dust, it's got to go way up into the ionosphere, stratosphere. If we didn't have dust, we wouldn't have rain clouds. You cannot make rain without a particle. So that's why when you see lightning in dust storms or lightning with volcanic eruptions, it's for that reason. And so dust is a big deal, and you got to know where you're living. What you also could do, like, I want to go down to Arizona. Okay, fine. Research the town you're going to. Make sure it ain't a bad town, because there's some bad cities you don't want to live in. I gave you one, but there's more than one bad city. There's a ton of bad cities, and a lot of them have had leaks. Chemical leaks, chemical spills, radiation spills. Some have like runoff phosphates from farming. I mean, some produce energy, okay? Some do mining. Mining's another one. I mean, fracking. You don't want to be near. They're fracking stuff all over the place. You don't want to be near those people. And what do they do with that fracking waste? Guess what? This is what they do with the fracking waste. They say, who's going to take the waste? You know what? Fracking waste, you need water, okay? It goes down, salt water usually, and some chemicals, and then that's how you frack. You use that. Well, when that comes back up, it's radioactive. Yeah, so is the rest of the crap. And it goes to dumps. Don't live near a dump. Don't get near a dump. We have a dump up here, and I was going to interview a guy who's got brain cancer. And he canceled. His lawyer said, you can't talk to that guy. I did some videos with this dump, and I got a lot of views on him here in Cleveland. And he goes, don't talk to that guy because we got a lawsuit going on. Just be quiet. I'm just like, the guy's got brain cancer. He may not even live to collect his money. Don't live near a dump. Don't drink water near a dump. Another thing is look at your water. See if your water's contaminated. If you don't have city water, you got it well water. You better find out. You don't want to buy a house that used to be an apple orchard because all that water's got pesticides in it. You're going to be drinking water. You're going to know how to filter it. So how are you going to filter your water? So you got to actually, when you're going to have your own water source, depending on where you're going to get it from, you better do a whole parameter test, like 270 parameters, because then you're going to have to design your own filtration system. Are you going to use filters? Are you going to use reverse osmosis? Are you going to use ionization? Are you going to add alum to it, or you're going to chlorinate it? What? You going to use a UV light? I don't know. It depends on what's in the water. I mean, what about them poor people over there in Flint, Michigan? Oh, drink the water. The water's good. Nothing wrong with that water. Man, it's brown. Oh, don't worry about it. It's good. Just drink it. Everybody dropped their IQs over there. All the kids are dumb. It lowered people's IQs. It made people sick. People died. Don't believe what they tell you, man. Don't believe what they tell you. City water, be careful. City water today is medicated. So you might want to get a filter. I got 3 filters on my house, and I got city water. I got one filter that creates high pH, so I could have alkaline water for coffee and things cooking. Then I got zero. I got a distilled water, not distilled, but it's ion. I use an ionization tank. It's just like they say, it's triple distilled. It takes everything out of it, and I add some nutrients to it. And I got city water for cleaning dishes. So you look at the water, look at the air, look at the ground. And another thing is, people buy houses in a new development. Where's this development? What was there before? I mean, all the houses, new developments, that's the crap land nobody wanted. Think about it. All the good land's already been used up. So all these new developments are in swamp areas. The ground settling, the basements are cracking. Their sub pumps never stop because the water table's higher. Crap. It looks all nice going down the little street, all the trampolines in the backyard, all the nice SUVs in the front yard, and all the lounge guys, putting the mulch down. And they're living in a new house that's outgassing formaldehyde because all the materials they're building a house with outgas poison stuff. Gotta know where you're living. Gotta check out where you're living. If it's an old house, gotta know what kind of old house. Does this old house have vermiculite insulation in it? Just because you don't buy a house for Libby, you could have Libby in your attic, right? And so a lot of things you want to look at, the stuff that comes into your house. I am working on a book. This is part of my first chapter. It's how dust gets in second chapter, how dust gets in your house. And I obviously didn't cover all of it, and I want to, if there's a couple last things, I just made a little cheat note, but the chapter's like 50 pages. So I think we covered a lot. I mean, there's a few other ones we didn't cover. I think we did good. So I should have my book out by the end of this year, 2024. I'm hoping that first month will be out. And I'm going to do more of these videos. I'm going to do, as I do chapters out. I'm doing this so I can think about more things. So, hey, thanks for coming on. Dust matters.